listening to TMZ Movie Crashers.
Welcome back to TMZ's Movie Crashers. I'm your host, Paige Catton from toofab.
And I'm Fabian Garcia from TMZ.
And as usual, a lot of movie news this week and last week because we were out last week.
Yes,
so,
a little bit of a hiatus, but we're back.
Yeah. Before we get into it, let's just mention some things we're not going to talk about. And we have a longer list than usual.
We do. We have some
week.
honorable mentions. And
honorable
we'll go
mentions.
Through them.
So first off, we lost a couple stars this week.
Yeah, big movie stars.
Robbie Coltrane, a.k.a. Hagrid, passed away.
Hagrid, right? Or is it
Hagrid?
Is it?
It's
oh my
Hagrid.
gosh. Excuse me. Harry Potter
Get
fans.
out of here.
My
oh
bad.
my God. My
All right.
heart.
I'm sorry. I thought it was Hagrid. But anyway, Robbie Coltrane has passed.
Yes,
Very
it shows
sad.
that you like Harry Potter.
The Harry Potter fandom is in mourning right now,
I
for
watched
sure.
a lot of the movies over the weekend.
Right.
Angela Lansbury passed away as well. The voice of Mrs. Potts.
Yes, big
Murder,
Disney.
She Wrote actress.
Right, huge in Hollywood.
Yes, really big. Ryan Johnson revealed that Daniel Craig's Knives Out character, Benoit,
yeah, the detective or
the detective
whatever,
is gay.
Which to me is like, who cares? It's like I'm not watching the movies.
Yeah,
interested in his sexual orientation or his relationships. I'm there for the murder mystery. I don't give I don't care that.
I mean,
he's gay,
some
but
people,
whatever.
Some of the memes were funny though. People are like, okay, in that outfit, like we knew, like
yeah,
it was just kind of funny,
right?
Yeah. So this shocked me. Harrison Ford is joining the MCU.
Yes, he is.
He is going to be General Ross in Captain America: New World Order. He's taking over from William Hurt, who passed away.
Right?
Yeah, who was in several MCU films.
And apparently this is a big deal because I'm not all that into the fandom of MCU and all that, but apparently this character at some point in the comics becomes, quote, Red Hulk.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's the people are saying that this guy is, at some point in the comics becomes like a different version of Hulk, and that presumably means that Harrison Ford could become the
I didn't know that. I know that
Hulk
his
nickname
is Thunderbolt, and he becomes the leader of the Thunderbolts.
Okay, I might be mistaken,
which
but I
is
was seeing
going
a
to
lot
be
of...
they already announced the Thunderbolts film, so that'll be interesting.
We'll see what happens.
Either way, I'm just shocked that he agreed to do this.
I
To
am
be
too.
honest, like I think a lot of people
It doesn't seem up his alley.
No,
and he's very cantankerous as a man. So because there's a lot of memes going around when people saying that, I'm waiting for the hardcore nerd interviewers.
Yes,
who are going to be asking him all this like deep fandom type question. He's just going to be looking at them dead in the eyes like, yeah, I don't know, I don't care. Anyway,
I can't wait for that.
Yeah.
This is very random. There's going to be a Twister sequel, and they're going to call it Twisters.
Yeah, it's like
with an S.
It's they're hoping that Helen Hunt reprises her role. Obviously, Paxton has passed away sadly, but this is going to be about their children and them kind of being the new tornado / Twister chasers. And I love Twister. The original.
All I know is remember it scared me as a kid. I don't remember what happened, but as a child, I was terrified.
It's a classic.
This just broke, shortly before we started our podcast. The new Creed trailer is
That's
out
right.
for Creed 3, featuring Jonathan Majors. Adonis better watch out because Jonathan Majors.
Michael B. Jordan facing off against Jonathan Majors, and I don't know if this is actually true or not, but I was reading that Jonathan Majors' character might be Clubber Lane's son, because if you remember in Creed 2, I believe that Michael B. Jordan, who is Apollo Creed's son, was facing off against Drago's, like from Rocky IV, his son. So I don't know if they're doing a big son thing. I don't think Sylvester Stallone's going to be in this new Creed, but it looks pretty good. Yeah. It looks very good. So looking forward to that.
Ezra Miller pleads not guilty to felony burglary case.
Yeah, so basically the Ezra Miller discourse continues. Yeah. They're plowing forward with that movie. We're going to get into some more Ezra news in a second. Well, not really. I mean, basically there's a new report out saying that the Flash 2 script has already been written.
Yeah, might as well just mention that.
Yeah,
now,
depending on how the Flash does next year.
But I don't think it's going to star Ezra Miller.
We'll see. I don't know.
Because there's reports that they already were going to be done with them after.
Right, and Issa Rae called out Ezra Miller and just Hollywood at large for protecting them and basically protecting abusers. So the saga continues. We will see what happens. Anyway, what else we got?
What else? So Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio has gotten rave reviews.
Yes.
Total 180 to the Disney's Pinocchio, which I reviewed
This one's like a stop motion. Yeah. Apparently he's taking a little bit of liberties with some of the story and stuff, but the people say it's more true to the original animated classic in terms of creepiness and some of the unsettling themes and whatnot.
As I discussed when we talked about this when I reviewed the live action, how creepy. I don't remember the original being so creepy. Then I rewatched it. I was like, oh my God, it's horrifying. It's like for kids.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm excited to see that.
For sure.
This was talk about bizarre stories. Scarlett Johansson said that while filming the orgasm scene when she had to voice the AI, that Joaquin Phoenix ran off set.
Yeah, he freaked out, couldn't handle it. And another kind of behind the scenes story surfaced as well. The director of My Best Friend's Wedding, a classic Julia Roberts movie.
So good.
The director of that movie came out and said Russell Crowe actually read for the co-lead part as the male.
The one that Dermot Mulroney.
Yes, right. Mulroney got it in the end, but he said that Russell Crowe read for the part and butchered it, did a complete terrible table read with Julia Roberts. Russell Crowe has come out and said there's no truth to this whatsoever. I never auditioned for that movie. Very interesting.
Yeah.
What else do we have?
TJ Miller and Ryan Reynolds.
Yes.
After the whole back and forth, it seems that
they buried the hatchet.
They have buried the hatchet. This was after, if you didn't know, that TJ Miller said that Ryan Reynolds was horrifically mean to him. Yeah. But then people were like, can't imagine why. If you know, you know.
TJ, yeah, exactly.
Also, Liam Neeson's going to be in a Naked Gun reboot.
Yes, Liam Neeson is basically replacing Leslie Nielsen, the famously late actor who was so good in comedy and all, like Airplane and all these goofy movies where he basically plays a clueless detective. And at first I was kind of curious about this casting because it kind of raised an eyebrow for me. I'm like, Liam Neeson doesn't seem to fit, but actually he does, because Leslie Nielsen plays such a straight man in a comedic sense, in all those comedy movies. And I think Liam Neeson can pull it off too. Like he basically will be playing the straight man, and all this ridiculous stuff will be happening around him. I think it's going to be funny. Very, very interested to see that.
That's interesting. And then last but not least, this was kind of last week's news, but we have to mention this because it was a big deal. Amsterdam bombed in the box office and with critics.
Yes.
People say it's terrible. And
I didn't see it personally.
I didn't want to contribute and give David O. Russell
any
money.
I don't know if it's a David O. Russell thing because he's been accused of Me Too type things. I don't know if it's that.
Lot of stuff.
Yeah, or I don't know if it's that or if it's just the movie didn't have good marketing, good advertisement.
I think it was a combination, to be honest.
And people, I feel like based on the trailer, I didn't know what the hell this movie was about.
A lot of people blamed the trailer.
It's a star-studded cast. De Niro's in there. Rami Malek's in there. Anya Taylor-Joy's in there. Mike Myers.
Taylor Swift.
Yeah, Taylor Swift's in there.
But
obviously Christian Bale, Margot Robbie, and everybody else. But
don't even watch it.
Right. But I don't know what the movie's about. I had really no interest in it, and it sounds like nobody else did too.
There was even a clip that's been circulating on Twitter, and people are making fun of it. Did you see that from the movie? And people are saying it looks like a bad high school play.
I did not see that. But
look it up.
I'm not surprised.
And I'm just like, and it had even that scene had the main cast, including Robert De Niro and Michael Myers in it. Mike Myers.
We're going to talk Michael Myers.
In fact, let's just go. That was the last one anyway.
Great segue. That's a great segue. Let's start with
Show where my mind was
We're not going to talk about these things at length, even though we just kind of did. But we're going to start today with the big motion picture, our main segment for the show, and we're going to talk about Halloween Ends.
Michael Myers.
It was Michael Myers, correct, and it was the big movie that was out this weekend, and it really it did well at the box office. It undershot expectations. I think it only pulled in $40 million or $41 million.
Was expected to earn 50 to 55.
Correct. And so it didn't hit the box office numbers they thought. People are blaming that on the Peacock same-day releases theaters. There's a lot of controversy, day and date. But let's actually just talk about the movie. We both saw it. I know that you're not knee-deep on the Halloween franchise, but this movie is very divisive.
Mm-hmm. And I did know that. I've seen that all over film Twitter.
It's very divisive. I am torn up about it personally because there's some parts of this movie that I like, but overall, I did not like the movie. I'm in the camp of how could they end the Michael Myers saga, if you will, on this type of note. And by the way, spoilers ahead. So if you don't want to ruin it,
ahead for sure.
This movie's been out. Whatever, we're gonna talk about it. Look, so they kill Michael Myers. They kill off Michael Myers, Jamie Lee Curtis. They have a little showdown in the last 15, 20 minutes of the movie, which is what the entire trailer was all about.
Glad you mentioned that. The trailers made it seem like it was this big showdown, and it was in the last 15 minutes.
Yeah, so the marketing was obviously misleading because they were trying to hide what this movie is actually about. But yeah, well, before we get to that, I want to mention Michael Myers. I felt like this movie was really a disservice to both him as a character and obviously Jamie Lee Curtis's Laurie Strode. Even though Laurie Strode was a badass at the end, it was great. She killed Michael, slits his throat, throws him in the big grinder, the big car compactor, or whatever it was. Michael Myers seems very much to be dead. I was reading actually that the the Mustafa family, which is they're the owners of the rights of Michael Myers. They're the ones that had initially financed the first Michael Myers movie, the first Halloween. It's like they're like a Middle Eastern family. They come from a lot of money, but they've owned the rights to the Michael Myers franchise and his image and everything for years now. I've heard, this is a rumor, but for years I've heard that they've had clauses in all the Michael Myers movies that Michael cannot die, he cannot be killed. So it's interesting that they actually killed him off now. I'm not sure if those rights have expired or lapsed or something, but Michael seems very much dead. Obviously, they're going to reboot the franchise again, just like they always do. Yeah. And I think I don't know if they're going to bring back like a different kind of Michael Myers or the same Michael Myers and just ignore everything they've already, because they do that a lot. They've ignored past entries for this latest trilogy. But I just thought it was a disservice because, as you mentioned, Michael's barely in this movie. Mm-hmm. Michael Myers is barely in this movie, gets hardly any screen time. What this movie's actually about, as it turns out, is this character named Corey Cunningham, who basically is the copycat serial killer. He's a wannabe Michael Myers. Basically, he's a troubled guy. He's blamed for the death of some kid that he's babysitting right at the beginning, which I thought was a great opening, by the way.
That was a good opening.
I thought it was a good opening. And throughout the movie, he becomes a pariah in Haddonfield, right? And you kind of start to see that he starts going down a dark path, right? Yeah. And then he's starting to get bullied and stuff by like some band kids. It's so ridiculous because Corey is like an early 20-something-year-old man.
And those are high schoolers.
Yeah, they're high schoolers. And he's getting bullied by a bunch of high school loser band kids.
Yeah.
Whatever. So then he stumbles across Michael Myers hiding in the sewer, Pennywise style, basically, which is ridiculous. Michael Myers was about to kill him, but doesn't kill Corey. He looks into his eyes. I think people are saying Michael sees some sort of evil in him that he sees in himself.
Flashes.
Right. Yeah. Or Michael's transferring his evil to Corey. Oh. That's what people are saying too, that Corey's getting possessed by the spirit of Michael Myers. Whatever. The point being, he doesn't kill Corey. Corey starts befriending Michael kind of and starts feeding him victims, taking people down there so Michael can kill them, regain his strength, because I remember at the end of Halloween Kills, I don't know if you saw that one, but at the end of Halloween Kills, which was the second entry, Michael Myers takes a huge beating from like a wild picket, like from a wild crowd, basically. So anyway, Michael and Corey team up. They go on a killing spree, and then Corey takes Michael's mask, kind of beats him up, which is absolutely ridiculous. Michael Myers being wrestled that way by a guy who's like 5'9" or whatever. Michael Myers is like a 6-footer at least. He's like 6'1", 6'2". And the fact that he was taken down by Corey Cunningham, some punk kid, takes his mask. He starts becoming the new Michael. He goes on a little killing spree of his own. And at the end, he ends up dying when Michael comes back and kills him and everything. So I want to say that the ending was butchered. The execution of everything was butchered. But I did like the idea of introducing a new Michael Myers-esque killer. Because, it's true. Like, Michael Myers as an entity or whatever, he can't continue forever. You know what I mean?
Like what is he, like 60, 70?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, at a certain point, it starts getting ridiculous.
Yeah. Like, how's this dude still alive?
Right. So I was for the idea of passing on the baton to somebody else potentially. But what they should have done with the whole Corey Cunningham storyline was they should have introduced Corey from part 1, had him be the boyfriend from part 1, and they should have slowly showed him getting more evil and kind of becoming the new Michael and paying it off at the end. That would have been a great way to end it, and actually letting him become the new Michael Myers. That's not what they did though. They basically they threw a wrench in at the very end, introduced him at the very end. It was a rush story, a rush
and
plot
he fell
line.
in love with Laurie's granddaughter.
That felt so ridiculous too. And she was enamored with him. And
and
they're both outcasts.
He's a freaking psycho. And
right.
She's like,
So Corey Cunningham basically takes the spotlight in this movie. Is briefly the new Michael Myers. Laurie Strode and Michael Myers themselves are pretty much sidelined throughout this movie, and then they have a little showdown at the end. But a lot of fans are disappointed in this movie, and I can totally understand why. Also, it wasn't scary, and you can speak to that too, right? Like, you're not into horror movies. Mm-hmm. This movie lacked scares and thrills, and I would argue that like the Halloween franchise in the past like decade really hasn't been scary. It's been more campy, like serial killer slasher shit. But this movie, they need to, if they reboot the franchise again, they got to get back to the roots of the suspense and the terror. That's really what it's about. It's not so much about the jump scares and the killing and the gore. It's more about the fact that this guy's stalking people. This guy's going around. You know what I mean? Like the creepiness of the original has been lost in this franchise for a long time. This last movie went out with a whimper, in my opinion, and that's pretty much my whole thoughts. And I don't know if you have anything to add.
Yeah, I mean, like as you mentioned, I'm not like a big, as I've mentioned on the show several times, I'm not a huge on the podcast. I'm not a huge horror film person, but I've been seeing more and more recently. I had seen the Halloween 2018 version, which I actually saw with you in theaters. You remember that? And I was like scared shitless.
Yes.
That's why. And I had,
even that one wasn't scary.
I was scared in that one. Okay.
What?
And then not like really scared, but a little bit. And then I didn't see Halloween Kills, but that's why I asked you. I go, oh, is Halloween Ends scary? And you're like, it's not scary. And it wasn't scary because Michael wasn't in it.
No.
That's why, and that's the first thing I told Brian at toofab, our supervising producer. He's a big horror guy. And I said, I really thought it was going to be scary, and it wasn't because Michael was barely in it. And he actually mentioned that he thought it would have been better if they had Corey in the beginning of the trilogy as well. He mentioned that same point. Which honestly, I feel like it was, again, saying this as someone who isn't a fan, I don't really have much to like, really creds to really go off of here. But I totally agreed with what people were saying because it didn't make any sense to me. It's not what I expected. It was a huge
curveball, like save for the very end, which is a terrible way to end. So it's supposed to be the end of Michael Myers, and that's how you end it with him barely in the movie.
I thought it was kind of corny. Maybe you didn't feel this way because, again, I haven't seen the other ones, but when like the whole town was like holding him.
It was ridiculous.
That was corny, right?
It was hella ridiculous.
Yes,
it was basically a presidential motorcade at the end.
Yes, and I was like, first of all, how did they all know that they suddenly had to follow the car? Like that was so, and they had him like tied to the car. I'm like, this is weird.
It's absurd.
I think it would have been better if it was like just Lori.
Yeah.
And maybe even Alice. Is that her daughter, Allison?
Allison, the granddaughter, right?
Yeah, and the granddaughter. And just like, and then also, as Brian pointed out, Kyle Richards was like nowhere to be found at the end.
Kyle Richards' character is meaningless.
I know
people love the fan service for her, but I don't give a shit about Kyle Richards. We're going to move on to our next segment, which is the Hollywood Hoedown. There we go.
Woo-woo.
Yes.
Okay, so
let's talk about this.
This is
equally as big, I would argue, as Halloween Ends. Big news, Superman. Take it away.
Yeah.
What do we got?
Okay, so thanks to The Rock, Henry Cavill is officially coming back as Superman.
Yes,
he is. Spoiler alert, we have not seen Black Adam yet. It's coming out this weekend.
Right.
It's getting really good reviews so far.
Yes,
I was not going to lie, I wasn't super stoked about it, but now I'm much more excited.
Right. But the movie's already been screened.
It's already been screened.
And there's been some things that have been leaked.
Yes. In the post-credit scene.
Yes.
Henry Cavill returns as Superman in the post-credit scene, which The Rock has even spoken about.
Right.
That kind
He's
of
been
teasing it.
More than teasing. He's basically just been laying it out.
He's basically confirmed it already.
He's confirmed it very much so.
And then there was a awesome Hollywood Reporter article yesterday talking about all these DC announcements, including like The Flash 2, as we had mentioned.
Right.
But it's been revealed that Henry Cavill is officially coming back as Superman in the DCEU. The DC Universe, the Man of Steel 2 is already being written.
It is.
And essentially, it's all thanks to The Rock. So basically, we already knew that he had pushed for Black Adam to have its own movie and be with Shazam.
Right.
And now we're learning that he had expressed that he really wanted Black Adam to face off against Superman.
And not only that, but I think he was also pushing specifically for Henry Cavill. The Rock wanted Black Adam to face off against Superman in their own kind of movie.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not sure if this was specifically mentioned in the article, but it seems that he was specifically pushing for Henry Cavill to come back.
So that's what has just been mentioned. So as a lot of people know that have followed this DC mess.
Yes.
It's been
ever since they fused with Discovery, it's been a
hot mess. So the outgoing DC press, Walter Hamada, did not want Henry Cavill as Superman in the DCU.
Yes, and we should mention the reason for that. Walter Hamada has been the biggest pain in the ass, it seems, based on this article. He's been very anti-Henry Cavill, very anti-Ben Affleck back as Batman. Mm-hmm. And the reason for that is because Walter Hamada has he wants DC/Warner Brothers to move on from the Zack Snyder era. Yeah. Because there was a lot of reporting on that earlier this year too, that like Zack Snyder and Warner Brothers were at war at certain points as he was making his new Justice League movie and whatnot.
Which we discussed a little bit.
We did talk about it for sure. So Walter Hamada had a lot of sour grapes over Zack Snyder stuff, and he just wanted to be done with everything Zack Snyder, including Henry Cavill, Ben Affleck, everybody else. But Walter Hamada. By the way, his final week is this week. He's leaving, thank God, frankly. But The Rock wanted Superman back. He wanted Henry Cavill back. He wanted Black Adam to face Henry Cavill as Superman. Walter Hamada said no.
So The Rock was like, well, I'm going to go around you.
Yes.
So he went to two other Warner Brothers Pictures execs.
These are big shots
above
too.
him,
yes.
I believe.
I don't know if they're either above or right
equal.
on par.
Yeah,
equal.
Either way, people that get stuff done.
They had decision
the power.
Yes.
Yeah. So in the film, I believe, was already finished when he went to do this.
They did reshoots.
And they did reshoots
last month.
Literally
last month. It's insane.
With Henry Cavill to have him in as a post-credit scene.
Yes.
And then now that little push, he's back in the DCEU.
Yeah,
he's back with DC.
Yeah, exactly what you said. The Rock went around Walter Hamada, flexed his lobbying power broker Hollywood muscles, and said, "Fuck you! I'm going to get Henry Cavill back in here one way or another." It seems Henry Cavill also wanted to come back.
It's also real quick.
I was just going to say they did reshoots in September, literally like less than a month ago it seems, and they said furious negotiations. They were like in a rounds of negotiations, and now. Not only is, and that's the thing, like the fact that it's leaked that Superman is going to be at the end credit scene, that obviously opens the question, like, well, what does this mean? What does this mean? Is he back? Is he not back? Now we know for sure. Henry Cavill is back as Superman. He's going to have his own Man of Steel 2 sequel, which I think may actually overlap with Black Adam. I think that movie's going to have them fighting. Or I don't know, maybe not. Maybe Henry Cavill will have his own entry as Man of Steel 2, which frankly the fandom for years has said that they needed a proper Man of Steel 2 movie, which I totally agree with, because Batman versus Superman was trash.
So bad.
It was. So I don't know if they're going to do Man of Steel 2 on its own, let Superman have his own movie to himself, and then another movie where he faces Black Adam, or if they're just going to jump straight to the battle of Black Adam versus Superman in the Man of Steel 2. We will see.
I think they'll probably be Man of Steel 2 and then Black Adam versus Superman, and then Black Adam versus Shazam is in there as well.
Yes, why not? Crank them out. Crank out those
honestly,
movies.
I thought was really interesting is that The Rock's manager is his ex-wife, Dany Garcia, who also represents Henry Cavill.
Yes, that's how he was able to get this done.
Cool. And I was like, obvious. So I think it definitely seems like Henry Cavill had been in The Rock had been chatting about this. And The Rock was
too.
And I think what I love about this more than anything is that I obviously love when stars and actors are so passionate about their films.
Yes.
But The Rock took this to another level. From the beginning, he was like, I want Black Adam to do this.
Yes.
I want Henry Cavill in it, and I'm going to do whatever it means necessary.
Yes.
And he even said, he was asked about whoever's going to become the new DC president, do you have advice for them? I forgot what Variety asked him on the red carpet of Black Adam, and he said, the best position that I could be for DC is one as an advisor where I can help. I love DC. It's in my blood.
Yes.
And I love that.
I love it too. And there was we talked about this at first when the story came out that The Rock lobbied for his own Black Adam movie.
Yeah.
He caught a little bit of backlash from certain people.
Which we had discussed, yeah.
We did, who basically said, oh my God, what a snob, what a baby, what a jerk kind of thing. Who do you think you are? Super entitled. The Rock, first of all, he has that type of power in Hollywood. Yeah. I'm all for him flexing it, and that The Rock is now beyond acting. He's in producer mode.
Yeah.
He's in full-blown producer mode. He's in power broker mode. I fucking love it. I love the fact that he flexed on this and made it happen.
And those diehard Henry Cavill
and by the way,
Superman
the fans want this.
Yes,
the fans want this. I don't know why Walter Hamada has had his head in the sand. He's an idiot.
I know. The
He's
fans have been dying for this.
And I just want to say one last thing that what was I going to say? Oh, the bigger point of this story about The Rock and all these things is that DC right now is a vacuum of management. Yeah. It's a land grab. Mm-hmm. And The Rock has grabbed his big piece of land, and I'm all for that because it's unfortunate that Warner Brothers Discovery now is so mismanaged that they can't figure it out.
It's
a hot mess. But you know what though? That's what happens in a vacuum. People reach and rip and get what they want, and that's what's happening right now. The Rock is getting what he wants. James Gunn is getting his own thing. There's a lot of people that are
Batman sequels.
There's more Batman sequels,
spinoffs with Matt Reeves.
Yeah, so basically they're just powering through this thing, and I love to see it. It just means more DC content, and I'm all about it.
For the first time in a long time, after the whole Batgirl cancellation, the Ezra Miller drama, I have never felt so optimistic about DC.
I agree,
and I'm like, finally.
I agree, and they don't need their own Kevin Feige, in my opinion. They don't. Just let
The Rock.
No, The Rock can be an advisor.
Let the directors.
Yeah, let the directors.
Matt Reeves.
Let them do their vision. Let them do what they want.
Yeah.
And honestly, look, people will come out to see these movies.
Yeah.
It's good. They're going to kill the box office. It's not a risk anyway.
Yeah.
Good stuff. And then we're going to end with the last segment, which is what'd you see? What'd you think? And this one, actually, I want to take a little bit of time on because I saw the Till movie, the Emmett Till movie with Jalen Hall. It was really good. And it kind of stayed with me a little bit. So I don't know how much I'm sure you know about the Emmett Till story, obviously.
Yes,
everybody does.
Yeah.
It's American history. But to me, prior to seeing the movie and seeing it depicted and everything, the Emmett Till story for the longest time, ever since I heard about it back in high school and stuff, it's always felt like mythical to me. You know what I mean? It's always had this kind of mythical urban legend type of feeling, even though
like out of reach,
sort of like
way.
Obviously you know what happened and the photos are there and you can see exactly what happened to him. But even then, it still felt so far removed. It felt so old.
I totally get what you mean.
And it felt very far removed and almost like as if I couldn't even really imagine that it actually happened, even though you know it obviously did. It always just felt so outside of reality a little bit. And now that they're depicting it in a film, showing you Emmett Till before he dies. Who is this kid? What was he about? What was his personality like? And Jalen Hall, I got to say, he brought Emmett Till to life. And
I heard the actress that's the mom is incredible.
Oh my God, I feel so bad because her name is escaping me at the moment.
I've heard she's been getting some Best Actress buzz.
She has, and if she gets a nomination, I would not be surprised. She was incredible. But basically, he's in Chicago. He's a Chicago kid, 14 years old, very much a city boy, big personality, very out there. And then he goes to the South in Mississippi with his cousins, hanging out for I think a weekend or maybe a week or something. And then he runs into this store, and he runs into this woman, a white woman who. And the thing is, the whole lore of it, right, is that Emmett Till allegedly whistled at this white woman in the store, and then later, either that night or the next day or something, friends and/or family members of hers came to his uncle's house, pulled the kid out of the house. It was like a gang of guys took him, this 14-year-old boy, took him somewhere out in the woods or out to their property or whatever, beat him terribly, tortured him, and then shot him dead. Shot him in the head, left him for dead in the river. He was missing for a while. His mom was making, a lot of noise, trying to get attention to this. They finally find his body. He was horribly disfigured. His mom sees all that, and then she holds like an open casket funeral for him, and it makes national news because he's destroyed. His body's destroyed. Seeing in the movie, because they never like give you a full straight on shot of his face, but you see like side shots, and it's just as terrible as the real photos are. The way they depicted it in the movie, they show you more than just his face. They show you his hands, his body, and like there's the scene where they actually come and get him. Like it honestly gave me chills because like when you hear about it and it actually happens and it plays out in the movie, they break in. And you're thinking about it because it's so sad because the mom in the movie, Emmett Till was at his uncle's house with his cousins, right? And in that one point in the movie, the mom comes to the uncle, who's like an older guy. She's like, "What the fuck happened? Why did you let this happen? How could you let them take my son? There's two guys that showed up with a gun. You have a gun too, and there was like more able-bodied men technically in this house than there were here to take him. Why didn't you try to stop this?" And it's so sad because he goes, look, like if you think about it in this context, it makes sense. Like, and everybody wants to play hero and like, oh, I would never let that happen. He's like, I had to make a decision between your son or my own, and I chose my own. I'm sorry, and it's so heartbreaking. But then they take Emmett Till, and then they don't. Thank God they don't actually show it because that'd be way too much and gratuitous. But there's a shot of where they supposedly take Emmett Till. It's like somewhere on their barn or wherever. And you hear that focuses the shot. It's a wide shot on the outside, but you hear what's happening inside, and you hear them like beating him, and the kid's like screaming and crying. It's just so much. It was powerful. And it's a movie that kind of flew under the radar this season. It's gotten some buzz, and I'm curious to see if any nominations come of it. But with Halloween and everything, it kind of just got swept under the rug. Very good movie. I highly recommend.
I think it's only in limited theaters right now, right?
It might be a limited release, but if it's in your town,
definitely
go see it because it's important, and it stayed with me. It was good, and it was Anyway, so that's what I saw. What'd you see?
Very different film.
Yes.
Completely different. So I watched Rosaline, the Hulu romantic comedy starring Caitlin Dever. It's a comedic retelling of Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet from the point of view of Romeo's ex, Rosaline. So in the tragedy of Romeo and Juliet, she's mentioned as like Romeo's love before Juliet, his ex, or something, but she's not in it.
Right.
Okay, so
there's no elaboration on her character.
It's not. It's Romeo and Juliet's story's in there, but it's like totally just it's hard to explain in the background. But it is absolutely hilarious. So Rosaline is Juliet's cousin, and basically she tries to break them up, Romeo and Juliet up, and then she kind of has like this enemies to lovers thing with this other guy, and it's just so much. And they made it so it's not only like a modern retelling and a new story, but it's also has more like modern humor, and they don't have accents or anything. It's not a tragedy, of course. It's completely different, and they even had modern music in there, like some modern songs. That's not just like classical music or anything.
Right.
And it was genuinely funny. It was so much fun. I love a good modern retelling. Like I love anything with a modern spin.
It's an interesting idea to kind of
Interesting idea. Apparently it's based on a book actually, but it was so great. And they also changed the ending to Romeo and Juliet, and they even poked fun at it. So like quick spoiler. So, obviously Romeo and Juliet, Romeo sees that Juliet's asleep and he thinks she died, so then he kills himself. Well, like, they basically are like, Rosaline is saying, she's not dead, she's just asleep.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it's just really, it's like really funny. Kind of just like pokes fun at that.
Right.
And they get a happy ending. But there's,
Who gets a happy ending? Romeo and Juliet?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't like that, but all right.
Well, it's a different kind of happy ending. I mean,
I
they
prefer
do.
them dead, but I'm just kidding.
They don't die. It's a romantic comedy. They don't die.
Right.
They don't die. But it was a blast.
Does she end up with somebody at the end herself?
She does.
Okay, good.
With the new guy, Rosaline does. And he's this kind of, they have like this enemies to lovers kind of trope, which I love that.
Yeah.
He's kind of like, because she's very like doesn't want to marry, and she doesn't want an arranged marriage, and she's kind of like very independent, and he's kind of like. It's great. It was a lot of fun. I'd watch it again, and there was even like some of the humor was so you just wouldn't. I would forget that it was actually based on Shakespeare in a way.
Right.
When like one time like Lord Capulet's like, what the hell is that? Like it's something that would just obviously that's not Shakespeare. Like it was just really funny.
That's what makes it funny. The fact that it deviates so much from the original language and everything.
Yeah, it's like there's like you see some. They also poke fun at like when Romeo's like talking to Juliet like on the. When she's on the balcony and stuff, and like he says this stuff, and she's like, "What?" Like it's just like it's so ridiculous, Moon and stars, more the crap he says.
Right.
Deaver was great as Rosaline. I've seen her other stuff. She's an awesome actress. There was some other great cast members. Minnie Driver was in it, and she was hilarious.
Nice.
Yeah, I highly recommend. It was fun.
Okay,
I loved
very
it.
cool. Hulu's
Loved
got
it.
some good stuff.
Hulu has some good stuff.
And we'll talk more streaming movies in the future. But with that, we will leave you guys. Thank you for tuning in. And we will. Oh, by the way, stream us. Yes, stream us on Apple, Spotify, iHeart, Amazon. We're on the website. We're on YouTube. And yes, we will check in with you guys next time.
See ya.
Take it easy.